Now, I almost wore my glasses for this video because that's gonna demonstrate the core and the essence of what this video is about. I wanna talk about human perception. So the greatest tool that humans have is perception, or I can call perspective, the way in which you can shift your perspective. And this is one of the tools that the mind has that no other animals have in this planet. And why this perspective, shift in perspective, the ability to shift in perspective is so important, because by implementing this in every single situation, you can actually awaken the divine self in you. You can transform your life fully. And I'm not using the term in a dramatic way, but in a authentic, real way, that just by working on shifting your perspective, by becoming aware of your own perception, how you're viewing, which angle you're viewing from, you can completely change your life. And the reason that this shift in perspective can transform your life is because when you are engaging and entertaining the expansive positive point of view, by understanding who we are, this is the core essence of this topic, and then to understand the ability that the 3D world has different point of view, you will be awakened, forever awakened, to become the person you are designed to live. So let's dissect what I just said, two things that I said, one by one. So by understanding human perception and the ability to shift perspective, to look at things from a different point of view, is about exploring and cultivating the divine spiritual version of you. So what do I mean by that? So in the spiritual plane, everything is already created, everything is completed, and everything is perfect. Yeah. And the mind, so let me back off a little bit. So on this side, so your right side is the spiritual plane. This side, your left side, is your physical plane. The spiritual plane and the physical plane just are. Yeah. Nothing is right or wrong, good or bad, or better or worse. They just are. So let's look at the physical world, right? Today, rain a little bit, right? For some people, rain might be a positive thing. For others, might be a negative thing, right? The outside is pretty cold today, yeah? So for some people who like cold, might be a positive thing, but for others, might be a negative thing. But what it is, essentially, what's happening in the 3D world, rain or sun or cold or not cold or hot, it just is. In the middle here is the dimension of the mind. The mind chooses and judges and describes and measure and has an opinion of whether that's good or bad for you, for your own value, based on your perception. So the 5D spiritual plane just is the realm of absolute. The 3D physical world is a realm of the relative. So there is a different degrees and an opposite that exists, including what's happy, right? What makes people happy or sad, or what people think that it's a horrible thing or fantastic thing, right? That exists in the 3D relative realm, but what it is just is. But we attach a meaning to the thing using our mind, and then we have different ideas and perspective and opinion about it, right? So we want to focus on this middle layer called fourth dimensional psycho-emotional plane, the dimension of the mind, right? We are gifted with this tool called mind, and then a part of the mind is called perception, perspective, to where different kinds of perception to shift our perspective. So let's talk about something that appears to be negative. So I can make it a little bit more practical, right? What is something that appears to be negative? Let's say somebody was let go of work, right? The moment that happened, if the person was not enjoying the work, that may be a positive thing, but I don't know too many people, maybe sometimes, not too many people who are super excited and happy when they were let go, right? So when that happens, what happened just is, but then you attach a meaning to the thing based on where you are, what value is, and what you thought about it, and all those background information, and that can become positive or that can become negative. But what I am inviting in this video to utilize the greatest tool that we have, a part of the mind called perspective shift, is to begin looking at every single situation from a positive side. So you might not recognize the positive point when something that is very perceived to be painful appears in your life. But when that happens, you must cultivate a viewpoint that things are happening exactly the way it's supposed to be happening because it has happened so up to this point. That's why we're alive and we're here, right? And if you're able to shift the perspective and see that situation that can possibly interpret as a negative to a positive things, it becomes a positive things. Yeah. The example that I give often is the Steve Jobs example, where he says that when he was fired by Apple, he thought that it was the worst thing that he could ever experience by being fired by the company that he created. But what happened later on was that he started work in a different place, and the company that he was working was bought by Apple. He returned to Apple in a much, much stronger, powerful way by experiencing something else. And then after the fact, by looking back, he realized that being fired by Apple was the best thing that could ever happen to him. Yeah. So sometimes you might not realize that until later when the dots connect, because the dots are being created and you don't know what it means when it happens, when something happens, the value of it until later. But when that happens, whatever that thing that you might be encountering right now, you must cultivate a viewpoint of positivity, which is a viewpoint of expanding into something greater, viewpoint of moving into something that you are meant to experience, and that intention and the energy in which you're seeing is going to drive and navigate the path to that direction, because you and I are that much powerful. But when you drain yourself with the negativity and begin going to a victim role of why this is happening to me, you will begin reflecting the energy that you're cultivating inside in the outside, and the negative situation will continue to be working against you because you're choosing to see that situation. So does that make sense? I hope I clearly explain it. So the reason that the shift in perspective is so important, and then we can have a positive perspective when things are going well, right? It's not that difficult to do for anybody. But what I see over and over people having challenge is when something appears to be negative happens, people get absorbed by that negativity and people start losing power. Yeah. So shift in perspective. When you choose to see something that appears to be negative as something that was meant for that person, for you and for me to experience, and begin looking at feeling excited about what's gonna come and where you're going, expanding into, you can own the power greater, becoming powerful more than that circumstance, and you can direct and redirect and navigate the energy into the direction that you want to take it to. And you do co-participating with the power of the source, because everything is happening as a co-creation of the of the expansion of the infinite intelligence, and you participating through the power of choice. And the power of choice, in addition to the perspective that you're choosing. Yeah, the power of choice includes, this is what I meant, includes the shift in your perspective that you're choosing to see something in a positive way, in an empowering way. When you see a negative situation in a positive, empowering way, by being able to see where you're going eventually, you are empowering yourself. You are owning the power of that situation. Yeah. So the greatest tool that humans have is the mind, and the part of the mind that you can shift your perspective. And how can you choose the empowering, expansive, positive perspective when something negative appears to be negative happens in your life? And you might need a little bit of mental training to get there, because many of us want to believe that believing is seeing, but so many of us are programmed to believe what they see. Yeah, let me say that again. Many of us who are into spirituality, personal development, wants to believe that believing is seeing, right? So belief is what shapes our perspective. Whatever that you believe in, if you believe that you're one with God and God is within you, you are believing because you are one, and you choose the perspective of faith. But if you are not embodying momentarily that oneness, you might go to this mechanical mind habit of thinking, worrying about something, because you don't see that in the evidence of sight. So you don't see in the physical world, that's why you don't believe it, right? So this is something that another video that I want to create, right? So can we embody believing is seeing instead of seeing is believing? How can we believe fully that believing is seeing? When you're able to practice shifting your perspective, when something occurs in your 3D physical world and you don't let that impact your belief and potential and possibility inside, but you go inside and go into the imagery and the feeling of the after result, and you can redirect the external circumstance using your inside thinking and feeling. That is owning the power inside. So believing is seeing. How can you stay in your belief when you do not see something in the outside? How can you stay in your belief when something in the outside start sort of getting in the way, or when you see a lack thereof? To not to let that lack and the obstacles and the absence of something to interfere your belief and the faith in you and in your path. Yeah, so that is the greatest tool that we must cultivate. Every single you can practice this every single time when you encounter something negative. Which direction are you? Are you in a state of faith, or are you in a state of fear? Are you in a state of expansion? Are you in a state of contraction? Are you feeling empowering, or you're feeling disempowering? It's all about perspective and what you're giving attention to. We must cultivate and nurture and nourish the attention to the greatness, attention to the desire, attention to the creation, so we don't slip back into a survival mode. So the greatest tool that we humans have is the way we can shift our perception and perspective. I hope that's helpful, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you in the next video.